dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the...
Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope?
You can't be a world changer without being a changed man. Only changed people can change their world.
It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another exciting package of the Leadership Breakfast, the show that deals with building leadership capacity for young people by interviewing people who have been in the room where it all happens. And today I have a very special guest who has been an activist right from his days in school, and of course was part of the early movement of democracy, the return to democracy in 1998-1999. He's Mr. Gbenga, Olawepo-Hashim from Kwara State, Nigeria. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to meet you.
All right. So let me start this way. You are one of the people who began the movement to birth the People's Democratic Party. And you started that quite early. And so that was an entire journey on its own. What would you advise young people who want to go into politics to do as a general case of this is my own journey as a person? These are, well, the good parts, these are the mistakes I made, so avoid them. But you're a part of drafting even the constitution of the PDP. So let's draw a line between your experiences in that early journey and the lessons you've learned and what young people can learn from those lessons.
Thank you for the opportunity. The important thing is for you to follow your values, to be hardworking and courageous. Your voice will be heard that way, loud and clear. You cannot just try to be like every other person there. You must be very different in your outlook. And that was one of the things that stood up for me when I was mingling with those I would say were a generation or two generations ahead of me. I was basically the youngest among the greats. Most of the people that we worked together with, as at then, most of them are late now, because they were politicians who caught their teeth in the First Republic. And these were politicians that had a lot of value. And they saw the difference in me that stood me out from other young people that they have seen around. I was ready to spend my money. I attended meetings, not waiting for anyone to pick my bills. I was very strong on principles and values and ideals, and that stood me out. And they gave me support. And these were also leaders that had values. These were leaders who have been governors, who have been ministers, and they didn't help themselves with the public till, and so they had a lot of followership based on the things that they did in their various states. You had people like Chief Solomon Lam. He had been governor, he did a lot in Plateau. By the time Chief Solomon Lam died, he never had a private residence in Abuja. He was still living in a rented apartment. And you had people like Alhaji Adamu Chiroma. He had been governor of Central Bank, finance minister, he had had various portfolios, but he never helped himself with the public till. They had a very austere lifestyle, like the greats of the First Republic, like Sir Ahmadu Bello. Sir Ahmadu Bello, by the time the premier was killed, never had a private house that he constructed while in the office of the premiership. So these were values that were not too common among young people. even as at that time, they were disappearing values. So to see someone who shared those values and who placed a lot of premium on it was exciting for the men that I worked with. So, you know, and I was always there anytime they wanted papers. I was always in every committee that mattered to draft things, and I made a useful contribution. So that gave me a platform as at that time, and it was exciting. But that's not exactly what you have now. You know, the PDP of today, certainly not the PDP that we formed 20-something years ago in 1998. That was a PDP that was driven by values, that was driven by character. You know, that's not the PDP you have today, I'm sorry to say. But there are also things that I also learned, back to your question. And there are also times to be very pragmatic in politics, you know, because we were living more by ideals. I was living more by ideals. And so when we were mixing, you know, with a mixed crowd of other people who are different, and then that people who came from military backgrounds that are now, I mean, they were very Machiavellian. They were not looking at the ideals, they were focused on power. So there was a fight in the party early in the day. And those who were very Machiavellian actually literally pushed a lot of us out of the party, you know. They just wanted to rule. They were not concerned about those ideals. And so as soon as government was formed, they were shopping for people who would do their biddings. And so the founders of the party were literally edged out. And so the question is how to balance between your idealism and pragmatism, you know. And I don't regret the position that I took, because at the end of the day, some temporary advantages will pass away. Your values will outlast those advantages. But bear in mind, while you are being idealistic, you should also have a focus on being pragmatic. So it's good to also be pragmatic. To balance this thing. Balance is very important, and that's the lesson. You need to balance. And our country is paying the price right now, unfortunately, of the triumph of those who were Machiavellian. They triumphed, and that's why the country is where it is today. They destroyed the platform of values for at which the new democratic order was constructed, and we're still in crisis for that right now. Yeah.
Okay, so fantastic answer. Although you probably say, I don't meet so many youths these days who have ideals, you know, values, but there are some of them who are out there and saying we should balance realities with idealism is quite pointed.
No, otherwise, the criminals will run you out of the stage and they will take over, as they have done in PDP. They did. They really ran out us. We were run out of the process. But people who will kill, who will do anything
just to acquire power.
Yeah.
Okay, now, a lot of young people also look at people in the political circle and say that, yes, we understand that, you know, we must be in the system to do anything, to make any change, to make any correction. But the process of getting into the system is quite cumbersome. Now, I'll give you an example. About 2 years back, I remember having a conversation with a couple of friends who had sent me messages and said, oh, the Not Too Young to Run bill has been passed and all of that. I said, well, my personal opinion, why are you celebrating? The age factor is not the most pressing question when it comes to contesting for elections in Nigeria. You have finances, you have godfatherism, you know, and a number of other issues. So yes, you have to strike a balance, but you also have to enter the system. So what are your own, based on your experiences, what are your own pathways to getting into the system first. Even if, yes, you know that you're going into the system to make a change, but within the current realities, what are the advices you give to young people to say, okay, well, if you must get into the system, you can go through this route, you can go through this route, you can go through this route, because you must be in the system first and foremost to do anything.
To be quite honest with you, maybe except at the upper level of who is going to be president, I don't think the system has shut the door against young people, really. We've had people who were governors in their very early 30s in this republic who have become Senate president, and who are looking to be president. A number of guys that people rate very seriously now as potential presidential contenders, they were legislative aides. So some of our colleagues, in the National Assembly in 1999, but they have grown, they have been speaker, they have been governor, they have been this and all that. They are young people, they are not old people. All right. So I don't think there is anything that shuts the door, technically, against young people.
Right? About finance.
Now, these people have made a lot of money from government, and that's why they could be, mentioned at all as potential presidential hopefuls. And you have a lot of people who have been governor, minister, two-time, and all that. And then they're basically people who came into the political scene in their late 20s, as state assembly people and whatever. So I don't think that is the big problem of Nigerian politics right now. Okay. The big problem of Nigerian politics right now is the values and the character. The values and the character that people bring into politics. And personally, I know this is your interest because your constituents want to see how young people can get into politics. I'm saying that there's nothing preventing young people from getting in politics. And you see most of the speakers of the various state assemblies today in their early 30s. They are already in politics. Now the question is, what values as in principles, as in ideals, are they bringing into politics? Has that changed the polity? That's the question. It's not whether they have access. There is access. Any young person can be anything in Nigeria now, but the question is, what really do you stand for? I think that is the question. What is the quality? What value are you bringing to the table?
I agree to an extent with you, but a lot of people will tell you that most of these young people, for instance, we were having a conversation last night. I seem to have a lot of conversations around governance and politics, because that's
your point of view.
Yes. Yeah. The deputy governor, who in Zamfara is trying to be impeached by his boss and the House of Assembly, is, yes, as you say, a young person, but he comes from a privileged background. So, of course, it would have been a lot much more easier for him to join politics than some guy who, just like when you were coming out of the University of Lagos, and the University of Lagos refused to release your certificate, and you didn't have, it figured out yet. Of course, that young man would definitely have his life all probably mapped out for him. And I'm not saying all of them. I don't know so much about the Speaker of the United House of Assembly, who's also a young man.
His dad was a multi-millionaire.
Okay, so there you go. So a lot of people will tell you that, look, yes, there are a lot of young people already in the system, but most of these young people are the privileged ones.
Yeah, but whether old or young, the privileged people always have a head start. even among the OGs who are in politics. I mean, how many poor 70-year-olds ever became president or governor? So that's
this 70-year-old told us
what I'm saying is that how many poor 70-year-olds ever became? I mean, money comes to play whenever politics is the case, whether in the United States or in England and all that. It's either there is money to back your campaign. As a matter of fact, in the United States, if you cannot raise a certain threshold of funds in the primary, you just drop out naturally.
Yeah.
The difference between our system and that is the people out there that contribute the funds. It's not like a caucus funding arrangement, but caucuses still also play some role. We have super PACs and whatever. I mean, basically, funds will always be needed to run campaigns, whether in the US, whether in Europe or in Nigeria. Money is it's a factor in politics. Now, you were talking about my own background. I mean, thank God that I was able to blast through by the grace of God, not because everything was made for me. But my story is one of the rare exceptions. It's not your daily run-of-the-mill thing, So I didn't enjoy so many privileges, but God gave me the grace to blast through. And that's why I still have a voice. And I do believe that you can also blast through. You can also blast through. All that you need is a very strong faith in what you're doing and in God. You have to be hardworking and be resourceful. And then you must have strong values. And I keep saying that it's strong values that will see you through. Whether you're doing business or whatever you're doing, and if people give you an opportunity to do a job, and you do it well, in good time, they will call you next time. But if you think that the first payment that you are giving is enough for you to live a life of El Dorado, they're not going to call you next time. And so you already have a bar that you cannot go beyond. You already have a glass ceiling, not placed on you by society, but placed on yourself by your value. Some people want to live their tomorrow today. The first money they make, they don't want to build even the business that they claim they are running. They don't want to invest in the future of the business. And somebody gets $1 million or 2 or 3, the first thing he's thinking about is how to get a good car. You understand? And how to get a very expensive phone that will announce his arrival. Even if that phone has nothing to do with the business is running. He's not looking at how to invest in the expansion of that business. So it's very important that you don't eat your tomorrow today. So I made a lot of investment by the grace of God in my future. Even in the kind of investment I made in business, first was public affairs consultancy. I had a lot of liquidity. But by the time I went into infrastructure business, I saw that I had made money, but that's not the kind of money for infrastructure that you needed to invest more and more and more and more. And the good thing is that those kind of investments are for generations. They are things that will last generations, regardless of what happens around. They are solid, But if I did with my money the way others did with their own money, there will be nothing today. You understand? So, value, whether in politics, and it was also some kind of investment in politics. I attended meetings and I was not looking around for any leader to pay my bills. I was one of the biggest contributors to the PDP in its foundation period, both at the state level and at the national level. And that earned me a lot of respect. It was some kind of investment in my political future. I supported a lot of people who got into various offices. I mean, some came back and they are loyal for it. Some, I mean, most are not, and what have you. But there's a way in which also God rewards you for those efforts. You cannot be anything without investing something. That's the truth. Whether, even for those who call, want to call godfathers today, they did invest something. In terms of their time, they took risk that no one will take. So whether it is politics or business, you cannot have a headway without contributing something. There must be something tangible that stands you out among the pack.
All right, now you talked about yourself. Let's come to you. I say that because recently you said that people who were talking about separation were not quite speaking coherently. But I would then put the question to you that one of the reasons why you were incarcerated in a draconian way by the military regime as the national PRO of NANS at the time was because you were expressing yourself on the issue of apartheid and other issues in the continent and in the country. And a lot of people will tell you, look, most of these separatist groups in Kubu actually trying to express themselves, but they are being shut down by the system. So if you did it, why are you now saying others should not do it?
I was not advocating for separation. That's number one.
Okay.
I've never advocated for the division of Nigeria and believe seriously in the unity of this country. We fought against separatism even at that time. We were not silent on the issue of national unity. Now I have no issues with freedom of expression. All right?
Okay.
People can express themselves as they want. It's your natural right. It's your God-given right. When the NSAS protested, I spoke to defend their rights, to hear their view. I was one of the few politicians whose voice was very clear. I hope you found out that in your research too, that I did speak. Now, but when it comes to people asking their supporters to kill policemen, burn down police stations, these are innocent people just getting by doing their jobs of law enforcement. Now, you have crossed the line at that point of freedom of expression to inciting violence. All right, these are two different things. So you have the freedom to express yourself, but you don't have the freedom to incite violence, to take the lives of innocent people, whether it's in the United States or in the United Kingdom. These are crimes anywhere in the world. Now, what I recommend to those who are preaching separatism is to go and form political parties. Like you had in England, you had the Scottish National Party.
Right.
They won the independence of Scotland. There was a referendum concerning that issue. They lost. And they accepted the verdict. And they are in the parliament and they are still expressing themselves, looking for their day, waiting for their day. So, IPOB should disband and either join the party or form a party. And they can make it as part of their agenda that they want to have a referendum. There's nothing wrong with that. let it be their political manifesto to the Southeastern people, and to, just as we have the Scottish National Party. But you cannot be advocating the killing of policemen, and there are bombs exploding, innocent people are dying, and then the killing of people of other ethnic nationalities who visit your territory, as Gulak was killed. You know, I mean, that's crazy. Those kind of things are capable of leading Nigeria to a civil war. And you don't want to experience the kind of ethnic cleansing that happened in Rwanda, you know, around 1994, where 16% of the population, about 800,000 of
Tutsis.
Tutsi people who were just barely like 6 million, 5 point something million, were killed. If, God forbid, that kind of thing, that you end up having a build-up of event that leads to ethnic cleansing in a place like Nigeria, you lose 16% of the population, that's about 32 million. You ask yourself, is that worth it? Well, I mean, is that worth it? Now, and your method of advocacy also is a mirror to who you are, really. And therefore, when you are leading a movement, you have to take a lot of responsibility for what is happening under your watch. You are as accountable as the political leaders that you are criticizing for the actions of your followers. When you are leading a movement, you are equally accountable. So I call for a huge sense of responsibility.
Okay.
You know, in this.
Okay.
Now, that's on the question of whether they have the freedom to express themselves. Now, there is the question of, I mean, I have a personal right to also express myself regarding the content of their agitation, and that's another subject matter. Whether what they are saying makes sense or not, and I can answer you right away. I don't see separatism as sensible. I mean, we have seen what happened in Ethiopia. You know, Eritrea has been separated from Ethiopia now for almost 30 years. They have not done better than when they were in Ethiopia. Southern Sudan just marked 10 years of separation from Northern Sudan. They are worse off. They are still killing themselves and what have you. Now, I'm not saying we have a perfect union in Nigeria, but if these guys, what I see from the foul language they use in their broadcasts, you know, attacking people of other ethnic groups, describing them in very horrible, if that is what they are going to do in whatever republic they are going to have, they are not going to be better than Southern Sudan.
But what about Southwest?
Now the question,
okay.
The question now is, I mean, how do we make Nigeria a better country?
Good.
The question is not how do we divide Nigeria. I mean, there are obviously issues with the country. I mean, you have too much over centralization of power. I mean, you need some
devolution of power.
You need some devolution of power. I've advocated for this even under the military. We organized a national conference under Babangida, which was dispersed at the National Theatre. They brought Arnold Times and dispersed us. So these guys are not the first set of people to raise the question of the structure of the state. Okay. Now, and because you are raising it does not mean that your recommendation are actually the best. So we have to debate that, and not in an atmosphere of violence, but in a peaceful atmosphere.
Okay, so I'll come to that later. But let me also ask you this question. You contested for president, and one will ask to say, instead of going for the presidency, why didn't you start from the gubernatorial? You had contested for governor. You, in controversial circumstances, came second. But one would have said, why not still try to be governor? Why aim at the presidency?
Well, I contested to be governor many years ago. That was 2007. That's quite some time, isn't it? Almost like 15 years ago. That's what we're talking about. I'm not interested in being governor now. All right, that's why I didn't run to be president. And you don't have to contest for what you have contested before. You understand? And you know the American president that was never able to be a senator. He was never able to be a vice president, even when he was made a president. But when he ran to be president, he was elected as president. And one of the best,
and still perhaps arguably the best president the US has ever had, Abraham Lincoln, absolutely.
So you're familiar with this. Now, the constituencies for elections are different. There may be reasons why you may not even be able to be a councillor. For instance, President Obasanjo never won his council election. He didn't win his ward in 1999. Yeah. But if there was no term limit, he would perhaps would have been contesting again to be president. So this has to do with the politics in the various constituencies. That you didn't win a governorship election did not mean that you are disqualified from being a president. It's a question of, what the time is saying and what the constituency is saying regarding. There are not two elections that are the same. There are people who have been governors, who have been Senate president, but who will never be president because the presidential election has a different dynamics from being a councillor. So I'm not discouraged by that. You understand?
But are you going into the two major political parties? Because a lot of people have accused people like you, Madam Ezekwesili, Philadelphia, quote on coming together, being small parties.
When you are not being fair to me when you are talking about people like me, people like Dorothy and all that. I'm not especially cut off of the same experience as this.
No, not the experience.
Okay. You started this interview by saying I was one of those who founded the PDP.
Absolutely.
23 years ago. And the PDP that we founded is actually bigger than the PDP of today.
Absolutely.
And bigger than the APC of today. When we had the local government election, we had almost 2/3 of the seats in Nigeria. And the record in local government, that was my constituency then, was PDP, despite of the fact that Dr. Olusola Saraki, that's Bukola Saraki's father, not Bukola, he was not in politics active with them because he was in APP. So he didn't win my local government. He didn't win my ward. We had the majority of councillors and all that. As a matter of fact, the PDP in 1998 had over 30%, almost like 39%. And then you had AD, had some seats, and won about 11%. The rest was very narrow win for APP. In Kwara then. And that was a really conducted election. So even in Kwara, the PDP was not on square zero. We had asked some reps members, from Kwara. At that time, we were not on square zero. So I played big party politics. And in 1999, when I was elected Deputy Public Secretary of the PDP, I was the chairman of the group of 55 NEC members. And then we have some people who are ministers today, who have been governors, who were in that group, and I was their chairman. And So, I know how to play big politics. Now, there is a reason why I resigned from PDP in 2006, and we formed the DPP, Democratic People's Party. And the DPP was not a small party. It was a big party when we formed it. As a matter of fact, it was not the way President Obasanjo conducted with Maurice Wu the 2007 election. The DPP was coasting on to victory in about 4 or 5 states. Nobody won Delta, clearly.
In Delta?
Yes, I won Kwara. We won Sokoto, all right? And the party did well in Plateau, all right? Even the AC then won only 1 state.
Yeah.
Now, it was war against the DPP in 2007. Soldiers were brought. I lost 4 of my agents on election day. They were killed by soldiers that were brought to steal the election for PDP. All right? And even though in Sokoto we won, even in the appeal court, in the appeal court, which was the final bus stop for petition then, the Supreme Court that had no jurisdiction arrested the judgment of the appeal court from being delivered. One of the problems of Nigeria is also people have selective memories. It's not like they don't remember things. They remember things they want to remember, and they choose not to remember things they don't want to remember. And therefore they construct a narrative that fits their political objective. What was the crime of the DPP then? It was because we were the party that stopped the third term agenda. The motion to stop the possibility of having to run a third term was presented by Sule Yari Gandhi, DPP from Sokoto, as senator. He died in a plane crash. I don't remember when last the National Assembly got up and said, let us even remember these guys. Those were some of the fresh heroes of young man, fresh heroes of democracy. The PDP paid the price. Some of us paid the price. I had to go into exile. My convoy was shot at many times. I left Nigeria after 2008 election. I never came back permanent to Nigeria until 2016. So these are very tough and touching memories you are taking me down, down to. And it's very interesting that we went that path, a very tough path. So when I was coming back to politics, because virtually I left politics, I was concentrating on my business in 2016, 2017. The intervention then was just to appraise the country. Okay. You understand? And I didn't want to go into parties that I didn't understand what was going on in them. I wanted a manageable platform where we could define our objective clearly and communicate those objectives, without being bogged down by the internal shenanigans of the big party. So let me say it was an experimental intervention. It's not a decision to play small. I've never played small. Anybody who was one of the big founders of the PDP was not a small player. I played big politics. And I know when to play big politics. Now, going ahead, of course, we are making a decision between one of the 2 big parties. The decision has been made already. We have been having consultations, and I've fulfilled some of the requirements that will make you to be an active member of one of those parties. It's just that we have not made it public, and we'll make it public soon. Yeah. So it's not going to be one of the small parties this time around. It's going to be one of the big parties. And we already made the decision. And we've done what we needed to do. And then we'll make it public soon. Yeah.
Are you still contesting for president?
Well, I think when we get to that point where we make such decisions, we will do. But I'm going to be very active in the political process. I'm back in politics, and I'm going to play it big by the grace of God. Yeah.
All right. As we wind down, political communications is something you got into by sheer creativity and trying to maximize the moment. I got into political communications because it was more of strategic and appealing to me. But what would be your assessment of how people gauge spokespersons in the country? Why I ask that is this: there are a lot of policies of government in the governance process that a lot of people will say spokespersons don't communicate to the Nigerian people properly. And so a lot of people don't understand some of these issues. What's your assessment of spokespersons generally? And I'm not talking about just this current administration. I'm talking about go back to as far back as 2006-07 up until now.
Well, I think there is a need for more professional communication. You know, a lot of people think the business of communication is just to throw punches at opponents, whether real or imagined. And I think we can achieve a lot more by the way we communicate. I mean, I think that's all I want to say at that point. There's a need for a lot of improvement. Yeah.
Would you say that the way that the current, the House of Representatives is saying, what we've said is, let INEC be the one to decide if they want to transmit electronically or not. Would you say that would bring a lot of litigations after elections? Because a lot of people have said that could be vague, even though we know that, yes, INEC has transmitted Edu electronically, and I think Ondo State as well. And there's been, but what's your views about that?
You see, when it comes to election, particularly when electoral bills have been discussed in an obviously transitional environment, the current president is not going to run again. Okay?
Yes.
So we're going to another major transitional period in terms of transfer of power.
Yes.
Politics plays a whole lot in things like how the elections are going to be conducted. And it's not just a Nigerian affair. You can see in the US, a lot of Republican states now are coming up with legislations to control
voting register, yes.
Voters registration,
Yes.
in targeted particular areas, particularly where you have a lot of minorities and all that, they want to restrict. So it's not a Nigerian affair. This is politics. You understand? Politics between the opposition and the ruling party. The guys who are in the opposition today, PDP, what did they do? We just discussed 2007 election.
Absolutely.
The sitting president was President Olawepo-Hashim, and that was the worst election that was ever organized in this country. All right. Now, if you were Buhari, and the best way to sometimes respond to some of these questions is for you to wear the shoe of the person who is on the driver's seat. And Buhari was in all the tribunals like me. after the 2007 elections. And some of those judges were even so insulting in their judgment that they almost stopped short of. In fact, there was a particular panel that imposed a fine on us for coming to court, for wasting the time of the court. That was how vexatious. I mean, how the Supreme Court will jump from Supreme Court to intervene in a matter that. So if you were Buhari that went through all that, and then the same people who did that to you get up today and begin to talk about, oh, no, just to be honest, how would you feel? How would you feel?
It doesn't change the fact that I need to be, I will feel
okay.
bad.
Now, so let me answer your question, because this is Gbenga now, this is not Buhari.
Okay.
And I fought all my life for defense of adult suffrage, you know. But we are different people, you understand? Yeah. And I would probably want to be the father of the nation. And as we did when we were in PDP in those days, we were trying to be the father of the nation. And then bandits are running the country after that. So it's a very, technical issue that you have to balance between, now what's your political objective, all right? As well as, have we come to that stage where you want to leave everything, open and free for just people to do whatever they like with the process. One thing I would say is that our electoral system, even as it is now, is a lot better than where we're coming from. No doubt about it. You were talking about what happened in Ondo, what happened in Edo. That didn't happen under the PDP, under Passenger. It was a war. Even Yaradua was the beneficiary of that election, came and said it was a horrible election. Okay, under Gbenga and Jonathan, we tried to do some improvement and all that. So there's still going to be room for improvement, for now and the future. But just to be clear, I don't want to be part of the politics of who is right and who is wrong, because it's purely a political contest. Those who are opposing are not opposing on principle. Those who are proposing are not proposing on principle. Everybody is trying to get a political hedge, against each other. But I do look forward to a country where our electoral system will become more transparent than what it is. If you ask my personal opinion, that's what I've been fighting for since I was a young activist. Universal adult suffrage and the free and transparent election. In principle, I'm committed to that. Yeah.
Your last words for young people as we approach 2023 and their participation in the process, not necessarily just contesting for elections. You could participate in the political process to contest or to be part of the people who throw candidates.
Well, please, I encourage, rather than just criticizing online, get your PVC. That's the entry point. Whether you're going to be active in the party or you're going to contest for any office, get your PVC. That's more important than anything that you can do for yourself and for the country right now. Get your PVC, the registration is going on.
All right, Mr. Gbenga, Olawepo-Hashim, thank you so much for coming on Leadership Breakfast. It's been an exciting time having this fire chat with you. Thank you so much. And we wish you all the best in your endeavor. Very soon we'll know what part of the political divide.
Thank you so much. You are doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
And you are communicating with a very important constituency, and any country that hopes to make some real progress, must have youth involvement in politics and the youth really that are standing on the platform of positive values. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
That's Leadership Breakfast for this week. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful time.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the...
Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope?
You can't be a world changer without being a changed man. Only changed people can change their world.
It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does.